Krishna, dear devotees, I would like to welcome you all for today's online discourse and class by His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj. Thank you all for joining today. My humble obeisances to you all. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you. All glories to Prabhupada. So today, Maharaj, we will be continuing with Srimad Bhagavatam series, chapter 16. I will just share the screen.
So, what's the verses again? I can't see them. Okay. So this is continuation after 18 days of hearing from different devotees on the subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita, a very thorough analysis, delineation, overview of the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Now we're returning to Bhagavatam where we left off prior to that session. And this is verse Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 16th chapter, 32 and 33. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Brahmadayoba. Brahmadayoba Hutitam Ya Apanga Moksham. Kamastapasamacharam Bhagavad Prapanaha Sasri Swavasam Aravindu Vanavihayam Yat Padasau Bhagam Alam Bhajate Nurakta Tasyaham Abjam Kuli Sankusha Ketai Srimam Pader Bhagavatam Samalankritangi Rin Agyaroja Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim Lokam Samam Visarjan Utsmayatim Tan Ante Tarante. Translation. Part of the translation is blocked. I can't see it all. Can you drop it down a little bit? Yeah, right there is good. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, whose glance was sought by demigods like Brahma, and for whom they surrendered many a days unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers, engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. I was endowed with specific powers to supersede the fortune of all the three planetary systems by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower, which are signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so unfortunate, the Lord left me. So the personality of Godhead, the personality of Earth is speaking this particular verses actually. The beauty and opulence of the world can be enhanced by the grace of the Lord and not by any man-made planning. When the Lord was present, when Lord Krishna was present on the earth, the impressions of the special signs of his lotus feet were stamped on the dust. And the result of this specific grace, the whole earth was made as perfect as possible. In other words, the rivers, the seas, the forests, the hills, and the mines, which are all supplying agents for the necessities of man and animals, were fully discharging their respective duties. Therefore, the riches of the world surpass all the riches of all other planets in the three planetary systems of the universe. One should therefore ask that the grace of the Lord always be present on earth, so that we may be favored with his causeless mercy and be happy having all necessities of life. One may ask, how can we detain the Supreme Lord on this earth and after his mission is fulfilled? And he has left this earth for his own abode, as he has left his earth for his own abode. The answer is that there is no need to detain the Lord. The Lord, being omnipresent, can be present with us if we want him at all. By his omnipresence, he can always be with us if we are attached to his devotional service by hearing, chanting, and remembering. There is nothing in the world with which the Lord is disconnected. The only thing we must learn is to excavate the source of connection and thus be linked with him by offenseless service. We can be connected with him by the transcendental sound representation of the Lord. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. And one who chants the holy name of the Lord in an offenseless manner can at once realize that the Lord is present before him. Even the vibration of radio sound, which can partially realize sound relatively, and by resounding the sound of transcendence, we can verily feel the presence of the Lord. In this age, when everything is polluted by the contamination of Kali, it is instructed in the scriptures and preached by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, we can at once be freed from contamination and gradually rise to the status of transcendence and go back to Godhead. The offenseless chanter of the holy name is as auspicious as the Lord himself, and the movement of pure devotees of the Lord all over the world can at once change the troublesome face of the Lord of the world. Only by the propagation of chanting of the holy name of the Lord can we be immune from all effects of the age of Kali. Chaksun militam nena tasmai shri guruve namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadanti Swam Padantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Goldavani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pasyatya De Satarine Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhupa eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namaho namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktarindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. 1 minute, I'll be back. The presence of the Lord energizes everything, coordinates all natural life, elevates one to the consciousness of devotion, and purifies everything from all material contamination. Here it's specifically mentioned that the goddess of fortune gave up her own abode just to engage in the service of the Lord. To be engaged in the service of the Lord is the perfection of life and the means by which one can fulfill all of one's desires perfectly, completely, eternally. Devotional service to the Lord is the constitutional nature of all living entities, as all living entities are intimately and eternally connected with the Lord. That connection is only fully manifested or fully uh, made possible by devotional service to the Lord. Wherever there is devotional service of the Lord, everything becomes auspicious because that devotional service is non-different than the Lord. Here the example is used that when one is chanting the holy names of the Lord, the presence of the Lord can be felt through the sound vibration of his holy name. Of course, that chanting should be done in an offenseless manner. So we might say chanting actually means to chant without offense. Chanting with offense is only a preliminary stage to transcend the coming to the stage of offenseless chanting. But it is mentioned here how auspicious it is to glorify the Lord. And by that glorification, everything becomes wonderful in the life of the devotee. The devotee doesn't have to seek happiness, satisfaction, or any type of any kind of other amenities in life if they are engaged in the service of the Lord. Because by the service of the Lord, the devotee's life becomes completely filled. Here it even says that the whole earth was made perfect simply by the presence of the Lord. All of the natural resources, as mentioned here, seas, rivers, forests, hills, mines, all the supplying agents that were there, that are there in place, given by the Lord to provide necessities of humankind within the earth, automatically become profusely and activated simply by the presence of the Lord. So here it mentions that his personal presence, but then Srila Prabhupada qualifies that and it explains that his presence is there simply by engaging in pure devotional service to the Lord. When we say pure devotional service, that devotional service that is given by the spiritual master coming through the disciplic succession from Krishna himself. One who follows that process is engaged in pure devotional service. And in due course of time, one becomes purified by the process of pure devotional service. So devotional service is auspicious, and it is supremely auspicious, and it is the perfection of one's existence. Anything less than that is simply a compromise in one's position to find happiness and satisfaction and fulfillment in life. And therefore, there are so many processes of spiritual elevation, but none of them can fulfill all of the desires of the living entity perfectly and completely, except pure devotional service. Why? Because pure devotional service is not motivated by any personal interests. It's motivated simply to please the Supreme Lord. And pleasing the Supreme Lord comes in different categories. One can please the Supreme Lord simply by glorifying the Lord according to the process given by the pure devotees. And so one should understand that there is nothing more auspicious, beneficial, and required for the conditioned souls in this world than to take up the process of pure devotional service. Material life cannot give satisfaction, nor can it fulfill desires, nor can it provide everything one needs. Material life is based on simply chasing after the gifts of the Lord and trying to enjoy them separate from the Lord, which means becoming a thief. A thief is taking something that belongs to someone else and trying to use it for their own selfish interests. A material life is no better than a bunch of thieves. We're trying to take the energy of the Lord without the Lord and trying to find satisfaction, happiness, fulfillment uh, in different ways. But ultimately, it's not possible because the material energy will not allow that to happen because the material energy, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mayadakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Hetunana Kunteya Jagavi Parvi Partante. It works under my direction. And no one can recontrol it. One can exploit it for one's selfish interest, but that exploitation turns into a form of punishment for the conditioned souls. That's all. It's like if you try to steal the property of someone else, you're punishable by the law or even by the proprietor. So, in the same way, material life or trying to enjoy separate from the Lord or to live a life separate from the Lord, some people think, well, I don't need God. I'm a nice person. I can simply, give in charity. I can find different ways to help people who are in needy conditions of life by supporting various agents that supply material amenities such as food, clothing, and medical care to people. They think, well, that is the best part of life, and that's all is required. But they don't understand that no material efforts can actually solve any problems in life. They just create another problem because they put one in a situation of trying to control something that one cannot control because material energy is controlled only by the Lord. When we try to interfere with his control, we think we're in control, but that illusion is simply a effort to find something that is not available. Just like if you're looking for something that you lost, but you're looking in a place where it's not, you may look eternally, but because you're in the wrong place, you'll never find the object. Similarly, we cannot enjoy this material energy no matter how hard we try because it's not meant for our enjoyment. It's meant to be used in the service of the Lord. But for the needs of the living entity, as it says here, the Lord energizes all the requirements of these supplying agencies to give the living entity they need. And he does that. But those who actually want fulfillment, happiness, and reach the actual goal of life, they have to engage in devotional service of the Lord. Because devotional service of the Lord is not optional, it is a requirement for the living entities to fulfill their desires for enjoyment in life and perfection in relationships. As we try to make relationships in this world, we make some attempt. Sometimes we get some kind of a relationship for some time. But we find there's always difficulties in those relationships because they're based on personal interest. They're based on something that is unnatural. When we make relationships with other living entities, when it's based on the principles of religion or spirituality, those relationships become fulfilling because the center is the Supreme Lord, who is the center of all. He is called Mula. He is the root. He's the foundation for everything, and everything desirable in this world. And therefore, those who engage in devotional service, they don't have any concern for anything else. They're not interested in any other kind of activity because they're finding everything they need happily simply by serving the Lord. And they become very creative in that service, thinking how to serve the Lord in different ways and how to improve the quality of their service as they continue in their service. So devotional service is so satisfying and so fulfilling and so perfect because it is the constitutional nature of the soul. And one who takes it up is actually considered to be what we call vidvan. Vidvan means one who actually has good intelligence. Those who don't take up devotional service, their intelligence is meager or small, and therefore they waste their time in all activities, and eventually they never find satisfaction and happiness. So, and then if Srila Prabhupada wants to make a point, and so he says the perfection is to chant the holy names of the Lord, which is the essence of the process of devotional service. One who glorifies the Lord by chanting the holy name of the Lord actually can associate directly in a very immediate way with Krishna simply by the sound vibration of his holy name. So one should take up this chanting as one's main duty in life within the category of devotional service. One may serve the Lord in 9 different angas, and these are called the nine ways by which one can offer service to the Lord. But the essence, particularly emphasized by the Lord himself in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is more than a ritual based on a numerical vow. It is actually an expression of one's devotion to the Lord, where one can connect directly with the Lord and find complete happiness and satisfaction. As Srila Prabhupada mentions, one can feel, and that's not just some eulogy, one can actually feel the presence of the Lord through the chanting of his holy name. So out of all of the angas of bhakti, they're all equally powerful. But in this age, special emphasis has been given on the anga of kirtan, or glorification of the Lord, through chanting his holy name. Because in this age, no one can really expertly develop many of the other processes of devotional service, although you can try, and you may also be successful, but one can perfect their life in devotional service and through the other angas at the same time when they chant the holy names of the Lord. One who is serving the deity, the chanting of the holy name of the Lord becomes so nice. One who is washing the pots in the kitchen, whatever one is doing, one is in contact with transcendental sound vibration, then whatever activities they perform is very joyful, no matter how apparently simple, or we might even use the word menial, that activity it is, because one is connected with that, with the higher energy, or with the spiritual energy, which is the bhakti energy, which automatically elevates one's consciousness away from these modes of material nature, which is the binding force of the conditioned souls in this world. Binding in the sense that it causes us to struggle unnecessarily in order to achieve something, which is ultimately lost in due course of time. So those who are actually intelligent and know their own best interests must engage in the service of the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead. And one who does that with attention and following the instructions given by the transcendental spiritual master their life becomes wonderful. And ultimately, at the end of life, they achieve the spiritual realm where life is actually on a whole different level. We can't imagine the glory of the spiritual world. All we can do is give a little definition of what it's like. Um, no one wants to die, so in the spiritual world, there's no birth, there's no death. No, everyone wants knowledge. In the spiritual world. One is automatically in full knowledge of everything, both past, present, and future, and in relationship to Krishna. Everyone wants happiness. In the spiritual world, that happiness takes on a whole different category of experience than the so-called happiness that we somehow or other define in this world. And there's also variety in the spiritual world. The variety in the spiritual world, we can see in this world there is so much variety. And within the three modes of material nature, there is, we might say, a large amount of variety available in the material world. But this is insignificant in contrast to what is the variety in the spiritual world. It's unlimited, and it's all imbued with eternality, knowledge, and joy. The one who is actually intelligent will not chase after the ephemeral uh, definitions that come by way of this material world, because the material world is just a false form of attraction in which the conditioned soul falls in. It's almost like how they catch an elephant, a male elephant. They put a female elephant in one place and they dig a big hole in front of the female elephant and they cover it with all kinds of grass. The male elephant is led towards the female elephant. He sees the female elephant and he starts going. But he never reaches her. He simply falls into this hole and he's trapped and ultimately he suffers. Now, this is material life. Material life is just attracting everyone, and we fall into the ditch of material suffering and life after life, wasting time with all of this, using our good energy in a most, what we say, useless way, which ends up not giving us anything that we need, but simply beats us with various types of material difficulties. So, therefore, the only alternative, and we use the word with emphasis, only alternative is to take up devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master and ultimately follow that process. The process is, as Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's susukam. It's not only joyful, it's su. Sukam means joyful, but su means very joyful. Very joyful process. And one is always free from the inebrities and the difficulties that come by way of having to live in this material world. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for these wonderful insights. So, dear devotees, we will open up for question and answers. So please go, you can raise your hand or you can put your questions in the chat box if you cannot speak, and I will read it out on your behalf. A small request as well, if you can turn on your cameras so we can make this session a bit more interactive and personal, that would be appreciated. Thank you. So Maharaj, whilst the devotees contemplate on the questions, you mentioned a very nice thing about that there is no solution to we should any to a material problem. If you find a solution through material ways, it always ends up in miseries, and and hence we are always in anxiety and a fearful state. Now, for a sadhaka, Maharaj, who have not yet attained that level of commitment or faithfulness or determination, there is still anxiety and fear when they're faced with material reversals. So, Maharaj, how to deal with those things on a practical level for sadhakas?
Well,
Any?
the sadhakas has not really fully grasped of the understanding of the process of devotional service. He still thinks that he is the doer, and he thinks by his own intelligence or energies, he can somehow or other arrange things for his own satisfaction. Therefore, although he tries in that way, because he has some connection with devotional service, he has this fear and anxiety that comes along with that because he knows, at least theoretically, that it's not possible. But he's driven by that desire. And therefore it's like being in trying to be in two opposite places at the same time. Until he gives up that desire and takes fully to the process of devotional service, he will always be somewhat struggling to maintain or to fulfill his material desires, at the same time practice devotional service, which are incompatible. To maintain material desires and to try to fulfill them while engaged in devotional service is incompatible. And there's different levels of that proportion. Just like some people approach devotional service because they want something for Krishna. They want to be happy simply by serving the Lord. Their desire is for personal happiness, and service to the Lord is the means to fulfill that desire. But it's the opposite. It's the real desire is to serve the Lord and satisfy the Lord, and happiness comes automatically. But they put the cart before the horse.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, dear devotees, any questions, realizations? Quite important topic and very important principles that we've discussed today, Maharaj. So, any comments, realizations on the subject matter would be. Thank you. Namrata Mataji, you please go ahead, and then Prabhuji will come back to you after. So, Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. My question was quite similar to what Diptesh Prabhu, Dhinay Gauranga Prabhu asked. But I was thinking another aspect of it, which is humility. So even when we are chanting, we require utmost humility to get the deepest rasa, which is there in the chanting. So how do we usually for the sadhaka who is practicing sadhaka, humility is a challenge, is equally challenging as you said about the uh, practices of devotional service. So how do we get along with that in terms of humility?
You mean how to apply humility? Is that
Yes, yes, for the practicing sadhakas.
specifically in chanting or in general?
I think both the ways. Is it in related, right?
Somewhat, somewhat related. Humility means to serve the Lord in the mood of trying to please the Lord and be attached to the service and not to being attached to any kind of result. As long as we are attached to any kind of results within the service, we are simply asking the Lord for something in relationship to our service. So we take the position of asking rather than accepting. Therefore, that is somewhat contrary to. So we just offer our service in the best possible way. We may also have a desired goal, but that goal is not, we're not attached to the goal, we're attached to the service. To be attached to the service is a feature of humility and not be attached to getting something from the service. We may also have a desired goal, as I mentioned, in the service, like we're trying to cook. So we want to make that cooking so nice that when it's offered to the Lord, and then he'll be very pleased. But we also have to realize, this was brought out nicely yesterday by Bhuta Bhavana, that in all efforts, we are only 1/5 of the action. The endeavor, the senses, the place of action, and ultimately the super soul make up all actions. So we simply put our attention and apply the principles by which an activity is to be performed in the proper way, and we depend on the mercy of the Lord. He gives the results, not us.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. And in terms of chanting, is it in terms of chanting when we apply humility, is it the same?
Realizing that if we're chanting in the right mood, then the holy name will come to us automatically. If we're trying to bring about the mood by making in other words, to put it in a very simple, don't let the holy name conquer you, and don't try to conquer the holy name. So you have to be receptive to the sound vibration. Open your heart, open your mind, and chant in that mood. Not chant like you're trying to unearth an enemy who's hidden someplace, somewhere.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Well,
Hare
I
Krishna.
don't know if that analogy is good enough, but
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Prabhuji, please go ahead. You can ask your question. Thank you.
Firstly, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept our Dandavat pranams and our obeisances. I think you have partly covered my thoughts through what you mentioned to Namrata Mataji. But what I'm trying to, or putting efforts, is in devotional service, and mainly through chanting, which, although I used to struggle, but I've come to doing the 16 rounds a day. But trying to be more quality conscious. We are surrounded by living in material world, can't escape that. And whatever time I can manage, I put in chanting, which, as you rightly say, is an important activity. And I'm trying to also purify the mind, make the chanting more, let's say, sweeter, and working on it. But if there was anything to help me in the sense of, let's say, I don't want speed for the sake of it, or purity, which is my aim, but what sort of guidance would you give me?
Yeah, we can and we can pray to Krishna to please accept this offering of our efforts to chant the holy names of the Lord. And chanting is like the analogy is given that if you want to worship the Ganga, the Ganges, you go to the Ganges and you scoop up a handful of water, and then you gradually pour the water back into the Ganges with prayer. So you're giving the Ganges water back to the Ganges. But what the difference is, it's now done with prayer. So in the same way, we're chanting the holy name of the Lord, which is Krishna's name. We're offering his name back to him. So, but in the mood of devotion, or in the mood of submission, in the mood of helplessness, in the mood of trying to please him. We should adopt these moods. There are many moods you can adopt in your process of chanting. And get away from the wrong moods, or those moods that take us into the mood of trying to control Krishna through chanting the holy name.
Yes, Maharaj, yeah, that mood, keeping focused, attentive, these are something I'm trying to cultivate, and we are fortunate that we have this simple process, and try to perfect it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for your comments. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Just keep practicing. Practice
Yes,
actually turns into perfection when the practice is done with determination and following the instructions given by the spiritual master on how one should approach Krishna in the form of chanting.
thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Sakshi Mataji, please go ahead. You've had
Hare
your
Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances unto your lotus feet. All glories to Prabhupada. Maharaj, in the lecture, you said that we can actually feel the presence of Krishna by by doing offenselessly, by chanting in an offenseless mood. And similar point I heard in one of the lectures I heard today by Srila Govind Swami Maharaj. He said that we have to beg the mercy of Gaurang Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, but without duplicity and with simple-heartedness. Maharaj, I'm not able to connect one point before I asked you a question that uh, genuineness means, yeah, I'm not able to chant in a proper mood, like helpless mood. You told me an analogy that we can fake it till we make it. And here, today, the lecture I heard here, Maharaj said that we have to, without duplicity, we have to take the name. Otherwise, we'll keep on doing offenses and it will not going to help us anyway. So I'm not able to connect points. Please help me show the right direction. Hare Krishna.
By living in this material world, you're in a helpless position. We can't control this material energy, nor do we know what's going to happen next. So we're always bewildered in terms of, what is on the horizon in our life. We make our plans, but we don't never know for sure because we can't. And the material energy is too powerful. and we are so small. So when we realize that without help, we can't do anything, and we cry out for help. So then that helplessness, or that position of being small and dependent, is the mood of a Vaishnava. They're dependent on the mercy of the Lord, and they're seeing their situation as being helpless, because it is. We are. Prabhupada said at any time, death could come along, and there's the end, at least in this life. We don't know. Nobody knows when death's going to come along. Some people can say, well, I don't think so, but that doesn't really say anything. Parikshit Maharaj Prabhupada would always give this nice example. Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days, but he said we don't even have 7 minutes. And we don't even know if we have 7 minutes left. It's the way the world is. So yeah, we're in a helpless situation. And when we try to achieve things in life, we have to work so hard to achieve it. I'm talking about material things. So yeah, our dependence on the Lord is actually natural. And those who think themselves independent are always being controlled by another energy, the material energy. You see, the material world, people think they think, well, if I just have more knowledge, if I have a better position, if I have more facilities, then I can be more successful in life. And so they just keep chasing this illusion their whole life. All it is. But a devotee, my dear Lord, without your mercy, there's no mercy. Bilvamangal Thakur, he prays, my dear Lord, with your mercy, what is the use of others' mercy? Without your mercy, what is the use of any other person's mercy? He knows that the only mercy is the mercy of the Lord. No one else can give mercy. And if some other people apparently come through by giving mercy, it's only because Krishna has allowed that person to do it, or empowered that person to do it. So yeah, we're dependent. We are very much dependent.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Maharaj, I have a question. In the verse we have saying, Prabhupada is saying, and you explained it quite nicely, where due to the presence of the Lord, there is opulence and beauty in this material world because there is a Lord is present. So even now, Lord is present in the form of his deities in the temples. Lord is present in the form of the holy names. So the power of the Lord's presence is there. The spiritual energy is there. But despite that, Maharaj, we see there is a lot of false deceit, false religions, bogus systems, bogus gurus, and they are flourishing. So, Maharaj, what could be the reason apart from the, is it because just the effect of the Kali Yuga or?
Flourishing because people don't know who is genuine, what to look for when they're looking for spiritual life. They'll take anybody who speaks very convincingly or appears in a certain way. People don't know. It's like if you're trying to understand what is gold amongst a bunch of yellow rocks, you have to know what is gold and what is not gold. People don't. They don't know what is the real. That's why this is Krishna consciousness, is to educate people to understand what is God, what is the process of approaching God, and how to find that person who is a representative of the actual process for approaching God. Most people wind up with cheaters. But Prabhupada would also say, because they're not looking for, they want something, but they don't want the real thing, so that Krishna sends them something less.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
If you want perfection in life, you'll find it. But if you want something less, you'll find that also.
So, despite Maharaj, just to clarify, we have got the presence of the Lord, the holy names. So, the spiritual energy is there all around and all around the world, even now. But because the desire is not there to connect, you don't get connected, despite the powerful presence of the Lord in the form of the deities and the holy name and the devotees.
We're still looking towards material life.
Hmm.
We're mixing oil and water together and expecting that they'll coagulate. Most people worship the Lord for some material benefit. And many times they get that benefit, but it doesn't give them the happiness they're looking for. The popular mood or the popular desire in approaching spiritual life is two things. People approach spiritual life to become God, or people approach spiritual life to get something from God. Either one. No one is interested, not too many are interested in God himself. They want what they can get from him, or they want to become like him. Neither one of these desires are natural and can be fulfilled. Those who want to simply serve God, they find happiness.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much for that clarification. Dear devotees, any other questions, comments? Maharaj, we are nearing up the time. It's okay, and we can conclude if there's.
We can stop now. It's actually 1 hour exact.
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, devotees, for joining. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Samaveta bhakta vrinda ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Lord Premanande, Hari Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.